Jennifer Cooney, welcome to the Popko Project Podcast. How are you?
I am fantastic. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I love your setup behind you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's like a real artist.
Lots going on, lots of
Yeah,
creation items.
love it. So you are a writer, director, producer, and editor specifically of a film called Wildfire. I'm sure you've got more behind that. But that's what we're here to talk about specifically tonight. I'm excited. I know you were on the Getting to Know the 570 with Frank Sepko.
I was.
I was able to listen to a little bit of that. I try not to do too much research about guests because I want to kind of learn organically. So
Yeah, excellent. Dig in.
yeah, so I mean, I've seen you on social media. I saw stuff going on with Wildfire, but I've never had the pleasure of talking to you. I don't really know much about you. And my audience might not either because this podcast is, I mean, it's for entertainment. It's for creative people, artists, authors, filmmakers, tattoo artists, chefs, everything, right?
Yeah.
But I'd say 98% is probably musicians. So I always get excited to talk to people outside of that space. But do me a favor, tell me about who you are, kind of where you're from, where you grew up and all that kind of just a little short background about you.
Sure. I was born and raised in northeastern Pennsylvania. I left to go to school in Pittsburgh. I went to Duquesne and then studied nothing having to do with filmmaking
That's
directly
that's
anyway.
how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny though, because I studied everything that helped me to think deeply and articulate just as deeply. And, English, communications, philosophy, psychology. So then I was able to come back and apply all of those things to character development or writing scripts or whatever. But I didn't really know I wanted to do all of this until I was 30 years old. So
What did you
kind of
think you
new
wanted to
to
do?
it. Um, well, I don't know. That all kind of got washed away when I got into a relationship really early in my life and then needed to start making money and just went into the family business as a means to do that. And 12 years later, it was like, oh my God, if I don't create something from my heart and soul, I'm going to die. So here I am.
Family business. What is that?
The family business is a importing beverage wholesaler. So
Okay.
in northeastern Pennsylvania, we service 9 counties.
What exactly?
What exactly do we sell?
Yeah.
Major imports of beer, Corona, Heineken, Coors isn't an import, but we do domestics as well, and then tons of non-alcoholic products too. So it's a fairly big business, and I was involved in that for 12 years.
And you're out of it now.
And I'm out of it now. Yeah, I slowly transitioned out of it, started doing some just part-time while I studied filmmaking. I started going to classes and seminars and kind of anything I could teach myself, and slowly transitioned out of that. And now I'm doing filmmaking full time.
That's awesome. Well, good for
Yeah,
you. Was
thank
the
you.
business just not something you wanted to be part of, or
Oh, the business is lovely. It was just something that I couldn't flourish fully
okay,
there.
that's fair.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's funny. I always say like I have like an entrepreneurial spirit,
Mm.
but I wouldn't say it's not that I don't have the drive. It's not that. It's just that it's one of those things. How do I say it? I can't take that risk now at my age.
Mm-hmm.
So kudos to you for taking that leap, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Um, I, I, I I have too many responsibilities,
I understand. Yeah, I
but
get that.
I love like business ownership, and I have ideas in my head that I would love to bring to life one day. Maybe we'll see, but
What kind of ideas? What are you
I
trying to
can't
make?
tell you. I can't tell you. Someone will steal it.
All right, fair enough. I get that.
But so yeah, so you dove headfirst into filmmaking.
Yeah, well, at first it was just screenwriting. I really
Okay,
thought all I wanted to do was lock myself in a room and create characters and stories and write scripts and sell them and be done with it. And I got so involved with a producer from Chicago who hired me to write my first script with the creative process that he said, I want you to be in Chicago during the filming. So he's like, I just want you to guide the story. I want you to guide the characters. Our director was a little, she was new to the project. We swapped directors kind of close to beginning filming. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll be there. I'll watch over everything. Well, I basically had a spiritual awakening on the set, just realizing this is what I want to do. It goes so far beyond the page for me. It's working with actors and working with cinematographers and production designers and costume designers to just bring that full idea and those characters to life. It was just the most enlivening thing I had ever done.
I don't think people realize how much goes, like how much is involved with that kind of stuff. All the
They
moving pieces.
definitely don't. I mean, I didn't know. I mean, my producers on Wildfire didn't know. It's like, we just said, we can do this. Let's just dive in and get it done. And I think that's what a lot of independent filmmakers do. They just learn as they go. You figure out what you need and you do it. That's it.
Is Wildfire your first like production for you? Like,
for me personally, yes. Yeah, Wildfire was my directorial debut, and I set out to make it to prove that I could direct. I had a much larger project. The script was optioned, and when he started talking about which directors he wanted to take it to, I raised my hand, and he said, well, Jen, you've never directed anything. We're not going to get X amount of dollars to make a film with an untested director. And my response was, well, so what do you tell me to do? Make a short film? He said, yeah, I'm telling you to make a short film. So that's exactly what I did. I immediately hired a local film crew and started writing a script. And very shortly after writing the script, I realized it wasn't a short, that it was a full feature. And now we have Wildfire.
And when did that come out?
It came out earlier this year.
And that's available where?
It's available everywhere. Basically anywhere. We got a great distributor, Gravitas Ventures, and they really did a great job putting it anywhere that people can rent or watch films. They just did a great job. So anywhere you look up Wildfire, it is 2 words. I do have to point that out because there's a ton of films called Wildfire that are only 1 word. This film is actually 2 words, and that's how it comes up when you search it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know it's on Amazon Prime and Apple and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and recently it got put on Tubi and Roku, and it's on a bunch of different channels.
That's awesome.
Yep.
What was it like for this? I mean, I don't want to get ahead. Let's back up and start with what Wildfire is.
Wildfire is the story of 7 acquaintances that get radically honest about their lives one night after a party. So it's a film that basically takes place over the course of 24 hours. And it's a film about radical honesty and lies and the cost of truth in our most intimate relationships. So I thought the most appropriate place to open would be in the bedrooms of all of our characters. It's an ensemble drama, so there's 7 lead characters. And we open up in the bedrooms of all these characters and we see what they're going through as couples in their marriage, in their relationships, whatever. And then cut to, they're all guests at the same party. And as the course of the evening goes on and all the other guests leave, the exemplary couple gets busted about being very perfect. Oh, you know them, they're so perfect. And they open up that they aren't really what they seem. And that sets the stage for the rest of the characters to really face the crossroads that they all arrived at the party facing.
It's really an interesting concept, right? Especially in this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
With things like social media, I think everyone can really, it's easy for people to show everyone what they want you to see.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everyone's happy and everyone's life is great, blah, blah. And this this digs deep into the fact that everyone's life isn't perfect. I mean, I can't imagine, no matter who you are, where you're from, life is not perfect. There's always something going on behind the scenes.
Yes, something I like to say often is happily ever after is the greatest lie ever told. You know, you can be happy throughout your life, but if you aren't expecting ups and downs, you're setting yourself up for major disappointment. And not only that, but setting yourself up to label your life as a failure.
Right. Yeah, that's
you
interesting.
know, And I take that responsibility as a filmmaker and a storyteller really seriously because my wife and I have this conversation often where we're watching a movie and there's just this perfect family with these, quirky parents and this really independent child and then this really articulate 5-year-old. And I'm like, what is this crap? Like this does not exist. And it sets us up to think that there's something wrong with our family or our parents or our siblings or our group of friends. Like all the, you see movies where the whole group of friends gather for Thanksgiving. Come on. Come on. Like, what are we talking about here? So it's just, I think as a filmmaker, it's really easy to fall into what's the easiest way to tell your story. But you need to be aware that you are creating templates for how people believe their life should go. And there's a major responsibility with that.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because I mean you're right, and I don't know if things have changed over the years, and maybe it always existed, right? But like I go back to, and this is not a movie concept, but like even like television growing up, I grew up in like on Boy Meets World and Family Matters and things like that. And I feel like back then, like they kind of always touched on like real life issues and problems.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that just doesn't exist anymore. Maybe it does, and I'm not aware of shows and things like that. But do you think it's changed over the years, and people are it's just kind of all like this fantasy, or I mean, am I just out of the loop?
I don't think you're out of the loop. I think that that's really accurate. I think that TV started out as trying to capture life. And then maybe it needed to be a little more sensational or it needed to be a little more fantastical to get the ratings. Because it's all about ratings. It's all
Sure.
about money coming in. So everything needed to get amped up. Well, then what happened is all of a sudden we're comparing our lives to what we're seeing on the screen. It's like, oh, I'm not measuring up in some way. And yeah, I think the result of that is really catastrophic because we just don't expect to have any challenges. But shows back then absolutely touched on challenges. Even something as silly as Full House, there was often,
Yeah.
familial issues that were being discussed and touched on. And now everything is either a hardcore comedy or drama that's so absurd or so violent that I don't know, it's just very out of touch.
Yeah, it's interesting. I so I have two children, a 6-year-old boy and a 2-year-old daughter, and with the internet the way it is, and like even like reality TV, they say it's reality TV, but like none of that's real, really.
No, no,
And
we
so
really need to stop using that term.
yeah, well, and I grew up, so like when that kind of came out, I was old enough to really kind of understand like what was real and what wasn't. I don't think children, especially with the internet and social media, all that kind of stuff, they don't have like that ability to know that because it's introduced to them right away. Like, the Kardashians and like, all these kids now, and I sound like an old man saying this, but I think it's true. And 'cause I talk to a lot of business owners, like I think a lot of kids, like they don't want to work. They want to go on TikTok and be TikTok stars. And this is real life. And granted, that could be a lucrative business if you do it right. But like sometimes that's like getting into the NBA, right? It's
Yeah,
hard.
sure.
It doesn't happen overnight. Like it just, I get worried that there is not the kids growing up now, they just don't know what real life is.
Yeah, think about how important modeling is for children. They're obviously their primary models are their parents or their immediate family and what they see every day. But outside of that, every kid I see has a screen in front of their face. So that becomes the modeling that they are basing their expectations on life on. So I think you're absolutely right. I think it's going to have results that we can't even fathom yet. I think we'll, see the result of it maybe 20 years down the road.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of, mental health issues. Not only is it, well recognized now, I just think there's a lot more of it just because I don't think as humans, we're meant to have all this noise in our lives.
No, absolutely
You know?
not. I'm always trying to quiet the world down a little bit. It's so much more healthy.
Yeah, I try and do that too, but my wife likes to add chaos to our lives by like getting a puppy and
Oh, classic move.
but But I mean, young girls growing up, I mean, they have like this perception that, this is how I should look and this is, the weight
Oof.
I should be. And like that's scary for me as a father of a young
Yeah.
child.
Yeah.
And my
Justified.
son too. But like, and I get caught up. I mean, I think everyone does just by accident. I'm on social media, probably too much, for my personal life and for this podcast and even for work. I work in radio as well. Um, it just, I don't know. I don't know.
I get
It's a
it. And I
lot.
think we all kind of feel it to a certain degree where it's like, this is too much, but your life calls for it from so many different avenues that it's like, how do we reconcile those two things? I had to take social media off my phone. It's like at some point I realized, whoa, I just lost 10 minutes. Whoa, I just lost 20 minutes. And I'm looking at my screen time report every week and I'm like, what am I doing on my phone this much? This is insane. So I had to take it off of my phone. Now it's like once a week I'll go on Instagram and
Good for
do what
you.
I need to do. But I had to. I had to.
I was getting a new phone yesterday and I was sitting there and he was, transferring my old phone to my new phone. So I was sitting there, I was bored, right? And
Hmm.
I couldn't tell you how many times I thought about going into my pocket to grab my phone. Because what do you do when you're
Yes.
bored? You go on your phone and you waste your time. You're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok,
Yes.
you name it. And I'm like, this is a problem.
No lie,
Big
that
problem.
was the big like hammer in the face for me is I realized how many times a day I picked up my phone for no reason. And I'm like, why am I touching my phone right now? Then all of a sudden I'm on social media. And it was like, okay. And honestly, since I took it off my phone, I don't touch my phone 10 times a day now. It's
That's
such a big difference. It's
that's amazing.
amazing.
That's amazing.
Hmm.
It's funny. I think about too. Even like these, quote unquote influencers and like people who go to the gym, right? And they film themselves working out. That takes time to do. Like you're sitting on a
Oh, yeah.
phone on a tripod or whatever, it's like
Mhm.
imagine how much you can get done like in your workout if you got rid of that.
Absolutely. So much energy gets funneled into it. And it's like, for what?
Yeah.
For what?
And I
Yeah.
get, some of these people like, they can, their fitness and they can get sponsors and make money and do this and do that. It just seems
And
crazy.
I will say this though. If you are getting genuine joy from doing it and it is not depleting you and you're like, I love working out and I feel passionate about people getting into shape and I have this my own way of doing things and that's what you're doing, great. Good for you. We need more people like that are just doing what they love to do. But I just have a feeling that most people, that's not what's going on.
Yeah. That's a good point though. Yeah. I mean, who am I to say like, oh, don't do that? 'Cause if it is
Right,
your joy,
right. It's
that's
so easy to fall into
it's like
that though.
me
We're
doing
both
this.
doing
It's
it.
like, yeah, it's like me doing this. It's like, why are you doing a podcast? You can't even talk. Like, get off the internet. But I love it. I love doing it. So here I am.
Exactly. Exactly. We both do it. That's why we're here. So we
Yeah.
just, we support the love into the universe. That's all.
Yeah. So before we get off topic, I mean, um, the film, um, did you like this idea that came out of this? Was this something that you had experience with that you wanted to kind of tell a story with, or is this just a concept you had in your head?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Wildfire was an amalgam of a bunch of different experiences and a bunch of different people um, over the course of the last probably 10 to 15 years of my life. Everything you learn when you start working in screenwriting is you got to do a script that's one location, that they grind it into you. So I thought, okay, I have one location. My friend offered her home to us, which is where the majority of the film was shot. It's like, okay, so I have this one house. What can I do at this house? And obviously, a party, it struck me. And then I thought about one night, probably, God, 12, 13 years ago at this point, where I was with a bunch of literal strangers. There were only two people at the party that I was kind of acquaintances with. That's why we were there. But everyone else I had just met. And my wife and I were sitting around the fire with all these people. And we talked about, it was the most interesting conversation I think I've ever had in my whole life. We talked about God and aliens and sex and like all of the things that you don't really talk about because people are so afraid of getting deep, right? And with these strangers, it was just the most beautiful, profound connection of souls. It was so cool. And that night stayed with me forever. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to bring that into this party element? And then I just, I'm always inspired by people that I talk to. So I just grabbed different characteristics of people, and I really wanted to home in on radical honesty because that was the journey that my wife and I were going through at the time. Just learning how to say what you mean. It's quite the journey to be on, and it's challenging as hell, but it's so rewarding. And it was like, how do I put this in the fold of this story? And then it really became the driving force behind it.
You said honesty, and I feel like people have a hard time being honest because they're afraid of hurting someone's feelings or things like that. I mean, how important do you think being honest is?
I think it's everything. I think that radical honesty, being authentic, I think that those two things are really about speaking your truth regardless of how it will be received, because it's your truth and because you feel that it's important to say the thing out loud. Not worrying about, are they going to be upset? Are they going to reject me? Are they going to think about me in a way that I don't want? Not worrying about all that stuff, especially in your intimate relationships. Oh, if I say this thing, they're going to be mad. They're going to be sad. They're going to be, so I keep it. Eventually we're all going to be super telepathic, and we're probably not even going to use words anymore. So like radical honesty is just the step prior to that. You know what I'm saying? It's like right now we can still keep things to ourselves, but when somebody's keeping something to themselves.
Yeah.
When they have a little something that they have to say, or when someone's sad, even though they're smiling, like we can feel all of these things. So I think we're just evolving to the point where radical honesty is just going to be the most natural extension of our communication because we don't have an option. Right now, we just happen to have an option.
That scares me. It does. You think about Elon Musk and his Neuralink and things like that. Like, I don't want people knowing everything that I think.
Well, it's freedom, not so much saying everything that comes into your mind, but not fearing what's in your mind is freedom. There's so much meaning making going on. So much meaning making where if I think this, that means that. If I say this, that means that. If they do this, that means that. Does it though? Does it? I'm not sure that it does. I think maybe we just make more meaning out of things than there really needs to be.
What do you mean exactly?
By meaning making in that way?
Yeah. I guess the question I have is like, could being that honest, could that be dangerous?
Dangerous in what way?
I don't know. Like, I feel like there's obviously you want to be honest, especially with the people you love, your wife, your husband, your family, your brother, sister, whatever. But like, I don't know, I feel like sometimes things are better left unsaid.
And that's totally possible too. That's why I was sure to say it's not about saying every thought that comes through your head. It's about when you have that thing, we've all felt that thing where it's on your chest and it's so true to who you are and how you exist in the world, how you relate to people, how you feel. But you think, God, if I say this thing, they're going to feel this way. They're going to be mad at me. They might not talk to me anymore. They're going to reject me. To not say that thing, you're just in bondage over that thing. You're a prisoner to that thing. That's really what I'm talking about.
Right.
And then when I say the other thing about freedom is not fearing what's in your head, that's a matter of expanding your tolerance for yourself, expanding your tolerance for your humanity, expanding your tolerance for your imperfection, letting go of meaning making. If I think this, that means I'm that. I don't think it does. Maybe it's just a thought, or maybe it's something that you need to look deeper at, or maybe it's a spark of a thought of a process that you need to go through. It's like we just give things so much meaning, and I think it causes so much quiet, insulated suffering that we don't need to go through.
So what would you recommend that we do?
Well, I mean, there's many things that come to mind. I think that making more room for yourself and having more forgiveness for yourself, being easier on yourself, learning to love the dark things about yourself, man, is that a step in the right direction? You know,
Yeah.
you think to yourself that part of you, we all have it, that part of you that you wish wasn't there.
Yeah.
That habit that you have that you wish would go away. I like to say to myself, okay, so that's a wounded part of me that has this habit. Well, that part must have a really good reason for behaving that way. Now, if I was judging that part or hating that part or shoving that part in a closet, I would never be able to make that much room to look at that part of myself and say, why are you doing that? Because you must have a really good reason for that. What's that all about? Are you scared? Are you trying to protect yourself from something? Are you angry? What's that all about? Then all of a sudden, I've created this safe space to look genuinely and compassionately at a part of myself that may have been, shoved under a rug for my whole life and just causing anxiety and angst and rage and resentment and all those horrible things that come out on people when it's really about you because you're not looking at this part of yourself. So just making room, make more room for yourself. That's what I mean, that's the era that I'm in right now, is learning how to make more room for me to exist and be and make mistakes and hurt myself, hurt other, and apologize, be forgiven, just make more room. We all set such high standards for ourselves and everybody else. I think it's crazy making. I think we're all nuts because we're trying to be so perfect all the time. It's impossible.
We are. I think I said it the other day. I think we're all a little mentally ill.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And I mean that literally.
Yeah.
We think about, I'm a little physically ill. I have a sinus infection, or I have, a stomach cancer. Like it can run the gamut, but it's so easy for us to call that physically ill, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it so hard for us to say mentally ill?
Yeah.
I think we're all mentally ill. I think being on this planet at this time, you are mentally ill.
Mm-hmm.
And we all need to address that and care for ourselves a little bit better.
Well, I think like social media has kind of like enhanced it to a degree. You can almost there's like people like you see them post on social media and it's like, wow, like I don't know if like you need help and this is your way to express that. Like I don't like it's just kind of crazy the stuff that you see.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, and it's with all different intentions. That's for sure. Mm-hmm.
It's, I mean, you look at the political atmosphere too. I don't want to get deep into politics, but like, we're all nuts.
Yeah.
We're all nuts.
Yeah, we are. And I think making more room for your own humanity and your own light and dark parts, if we could all just focus on that. We just little by little, it's almost like crumb by crumb, you find a little bit of peace. You find a little bit of peace in not judging yourself for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
You find a little bit of peace in quiet for 3 minutes. And it's like you build on that peace more and more and more. And all of a sudden you look around you and the world reflects it back. It's just how this place works.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to the film. I love the concept, and I cannot wait to watch it. Like I said, I wish I would have before we did this, but life.
Everything happens for a reason. It's all good.
Life gets in the way, right? It's just like it's. Can you? I don't want to like talk about too much in case people want to actually watch it, right? But
Sure.
can you pick out maybe maybe two of the couples and kind of expand on some of the things that they're kind of going through? Maybe it's a certain topic or whatever it might be.
Sure. Yeah. Let me home in on the heteronormative married couple. I think what they're going through, their characters' names are Maeve and Noah, played by Annie Gill and Todd Lycia, who both did a magnificent job on both of those characters. I loved working with them. Their characters, I think, are really interesting because they represent to me every man. When you watch and you see these two people, to me, that's what I feel like is the status quo, at least at this point in our evolution, where you can feel their resentment just right beneath the surface. And even when they're calling each other honey and sweetie and all the pet names, you can feel how angry they are with each other because they're not being honest. Just about little things, you know? And to me, all of the couples are going through their own journey with radical honesty, but Maeve and Noah, I home in on them because they struggle so much with even acknowledging that they're like, they wouldn't even know what you mean if you were to say you're not being honest. And I think that's how most people operate. And you'll see that the movie ends on Maeve, just on her face, and you'll understand why. Talking about this, there's something about the way that she handles the revelations in the film where she's mulish. She's mulish. And I think that she represents most people and how they handle the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all the other characters and couples definitely handle the radical honesty journey a little bit differently. They're a little more open to it. The married lesbian couple, they're kind of the mouthpiece for radical honesty because they're very much embroiled in that journey. And then the other straight couple, they're a really interesting couple to me because the woman is so covert. All of her operations are so covert. And it's ironic because her husband is desperate for her, to be honest. Like he's constantly setting up this safe space for her to just say what she wants. So I kind of love watching. I never get tired of watching their interactions because it's kind of sad and funny that having this perfectly loving and compassionate space holding husband, that he would be paired with someone who's completely covert and afraid of her own demons, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How important was it to make this film and kind of have these different characters? I mean, obviously, we're in a time where a lot more is accepted, and I think maybe a generation ago, and I think it's what happens. Like you're raised a certain way, and it's like you have to do X, Y, Z to be normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk about normal. And now today, like so much more is accepted.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's same-sex marriages or uh, there's a ton of different things.
Mm-hmm.
So how important was it like for you to showcase all of these different aspects? Because again, like you grow up, you're raised certain ways, and like you got to get go to high school, get good grades, go to college, get good grades, get a good job,
Mm-hmm.
get the house, boy, pick a fence. Like this is the blueprint for success and what your
Yeah.
life should be.
Yeah. The
But
crap story.
yeah, but that's not reality. And people have lived, hiding so much because they didn't want to disappoint mom and dad or whether it's being gay or not going to college or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I feel bad, for people who suffer through that.
Oh, yeah. And, was it important to me? How important was it? It's of utmost importance for me to give these characters these journeys and to put them on screen, watch them go through it. But the whole movie's not about that. Like at no point are we like, and enter the lesbian married couple. Like no one's doing that. They're not talking about coming out. They're not talking about their parents throwing them out of the house. Like, to me, that was the first generation of LGBTQ films. It was like, all right, let's show people coming out, getting kicked out of their house, getting gay bashed. Like, okay, yes, it's an important part of the storytelling process. But now I think we've gotten to a place where we're beyond that, as okay, this is where we are in our story, and it's more like now we're just living amongst everyone and we're integrating, and some people are mad about it, some people are excited about it, whatever, it's all there. But I think what's really interesting is, even though culture, and let's say young society within culture, even though they are more accepting and more open and more fluid and all of these things, that doesn't make the 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, that doesn't make it suddenly easy for us to be okay with ourselves, because we grew up, I came out in the early 2000s. My wife came out in the 90s. It was 100% not okay. Like, yeah, maybe I had Will and Grace. Maybe I had one season of Will and Grace to point at and be like, look, it's fine.
Yeah.
But society at large was absolutely not okay with it. So the really interesting part is that being on the queer spectrum, whether it's your gender or your sexuality, at some point in your life, you get to stand up and say, this is who I am, whether you like it or not. And I think that, so we've seen that part of the story, and now the part of the story that we're in is more about seeing how similar we all are. And it's like, yeah, now we're all in marriages, so we're all going through the same thing. And that's what I really like about Wildfire, is it shows how all of these couples, no matter how they identify, they're all going through the struggle of long-term connection and how to maintain that. How do you grow together, right? Because I once heard, when you're in a long-term relationship, you're either growing apart or you're growing together. There's no other option. So it's like watching them grow together, watching other couples grow apart. It's all the same. Love is love. Yeah.
And I think we're all much more similar than we think we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Relationships are relationships, right? Like,
yeah, they all have their good and their bad. It doesn't matter, if they're romantic relationships, familial, it doesn't matter. They all have their good and the bad.
Yeah. What else can you tell us about this film? It's available obviously now. How have people perceived it? What's the reception been? Have you been able to get a lot of positive feedback? Has there been any negative feedback? What's that been like?
Well, we had a 10-month international festival run, which was really cool. I didn't anticipate it being that well taken into the festival community. But over 10 months, we actually ended up getting either 27 or 28 accolades from all the festivals, which was mind-blowing. I did not anticipate that at all. So that was so cool to be so well received. And the festivals that I did go to, so many of the audience members were completely engaged with the characters and the story and what they were going through. An experience that really stands out for me was at the New Jersey Film Festival. It was held on a college campus. So it was a bunch of college students essentially watching the film. And it was awesome because they seemed to be the most engaged audience I had ever interacted with. And I think it's because they're dealing with these themes in their life coming from the generation that they're in, now being in college and entering into maybe relationships or long-term relationships for the first time. They were really curious about these characters and their journeys and radical honesty. So that was really cool. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. What was it like when you finished it? I mean,
Bittersweet.
Yeah,
Bittersweet.
I can't even imagine like the whole like the thinking of it, the writing of it, and then the actual production and the directing, and you have this finished product. Now it's time to release it into the world. What was that like?
Well, I mean, there's the different phases had all of their ups and downs, and we had 7 to 9 months of pre-production where we totally prepared for everything in casting and finding locations and all that stuff. So then when we ended pre-production and went into filming, that was bittersweet. It was like, okay, guys, now we're really doing it. Like, cameras are rolling, all the rehearsing is done. It's time. So that was an interesting moment because we had so much fun in pre-production, picking out all the shots, and that was amazing. And then the 2 weeks of filming and having the whole cast and crew together, it feels like 24 hours a day. It's like your sleep pattern is just so minute during that time. So it feels like you're with these people nonstop for 2 weeks. It's like summer camp. When we wrapped, it was at maybe 6 o'clock in the morning. We had filmed for 12 hours since the previous night. That moment was so bittersweet for me because I had been on a film set before and I know what happens after you wrap. You really never see these people again for the most part. And you've gotten so close with them and bonded with them and had so much fun and so much creative energy all flowing in the same direction. It's intoxicating. And then it's just over. And even if you work with them on another project, it's not the same. It's like this amazing microcosm of a life in 2 weeks. And then it's over. It's a death. It really is. It's a birth and a death every time you finish a phase of production. And then releasing it into the world was so weird because it was like, now I have nothing else I can possibly do with this film. It's my hand is over. So it's just kind of, it felt like, pushing a baby down a river. Really, that's what it feels like. Cause it's like, oh, is it ready yet? I don't know. And then, but there it is. It's going down the river. Nothing more you can do. Yeah. But it's wild. Such a journey.
And getting into festivals, how what does that process look like?
Overwhelming, confusing, exciting, heartbreaking, nerve-wracking. It's all of it. Yeah, I mean, you think, okay, let's just look at these little festivals. No, there's like 10,000 festivals, first of all, that you can apply to all over the world. None of them are at the same time. So trying to decide what's our festival run going to be, I don't know. It's like, let's do our best to choose what we think we're going to get into. Then you get into the ones you didn't think you were going to get into, and you don't get into the ones you thought you were a shoo-in. It's such a confusing process. Getting your first rejection is heartbreaking. Getting 30 more, horrifying. Getting your first in, exhilarating. Getting your 12th in, it's cool, like everything kind of ups and downs. But going to the festivals was so fun. Getting to watch it on a big screen with a group of people and then being able to interact with them, and the actors came to a few of them so we could do Q&As after the viewing. It was cool. It was, but a roller coaster, emotionally speaking. Mm-hmm.
I bet.
Yeah.
What's next with this film in particular? Is there more to be done with it now that it's out, or?
No, we just moved from sole North American distribution to worldwide distribution. So that's in effect now. So that's really cool. And that's kind of like all you can do. So at this point, I'm working with my social media team, and they're handling just keeping new content coming and keep digging into the behind the scenes and the making of and the themes in the movie. And so we're always telling more about the film. But my production company, Half Jack Generation, kind of like between a couple of things right now. I just optioned a script to a Los Angeles production company. So we're in financing for that. And that's a really interesting project. It's a erotic thriller rooted in a love triangle in suburbia. So that's going to be really cool. And then I have another script that I'm working on that I'd like to film locally. And that's about a 30-year professed nun who has a old student return to her campus, and they have a love affair. So my stories are always all about divinity and sexuality, love and honesty, humanity and freedom. And I'm kind of just always unpacking these seemingly opposite worlds and bringing them together.
You said finance. Like, what's that process like? How do you go about getting finance for these things?
Well, for Wildfire, I self-financed. So that was easy. It's just, here it is. But as far as actually going out and getting financing, I'm not the producer on that particular project. So I don't know. They have all kinds of avenues that they are venturing down. And, I think the most interesting part for me with financing a film is you never really know what's going to come first. You think get financing and then take it to actors because maybe you'll get an actor, an A-list or a B-list actor once it's financed. Maybe it's the opposite though, right? Maybe you need to get an actor before anybody wants to finance it. So it's this constant chicken or the egg question. And it's no one's ever answered it. They think they have, but they haven't. So it's a tricky little world.
That's like I said before. I don't think people realize how much goes into it. There's just
no. Oh my God. I can guarantee you that. And on Wildfire, we had 2 days on set with, I think we had 50 of my family and friends being extras on set for those days. And how many of them came up to me and they were like, you have ruined movies for me, because now I know that scene and that scene didn't happen at the same time. They were 2 days apart, and all these camera setups, and I think they expected to be on camera like all day, but it was okay, 2 hours for a setup, go sit in the garage, we'll see you later. And just rotating that process all day long. So it's definitely a whole new world that most people have no idea about.
I was on an episode of Sex and the City.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I should know this off the top of my head, like what episode, like what season. I don't.
You definitely need to know that.
I should, right? Because people, when I say that out loud, they're like, yeah, okay. I'm like, why would I lie about that? Like, why of all things, right? I forget, it was a marriage ceremony. I forget. I think it was the dark hair girl. I was just like an extra. I was like in the church vestibule. How do you say that? Vestibule. Vestibule.
Like a mule. Vestibule.
Yes. So I was just and I walked. They walked right past me down the church steps, and that was a long day. It was you just sat there. You sat there, and they would walk in, and they would like, you, and you come with us, and then they'd disappear for an hour.
Hours.
Come back. Like, all right, you, and you. But it was interesting.
Yeah.
And then I was just last year. I was in a music video for the band Don't Panic, and it was a 12-hour day, and the song is literally 3 minutes.
Isn't that incredible?
Incredible.
It's incredible. Yeah. So much goes into it.
And you said it took you 2 weeks. I'm like, that sounds quick.
It was. Honestly, it was too quick. I think because it was my friend's home and she was living in it and working while we were filming in it, I was very aware of being in her space for that long, and I didn't want to overstay our welcome. So, but it was quick. It was too quick.
Some of the people you had working on this are some people that I know. Specifically, Stephen Ruther.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Connor
first
Allen.
AC. Yep. Connor. Oh my God. He saved the day a million times. Connor. He was my first AD.
Yeah. He's a cool guy.
Yeah. He's awesome. He's fantastic to work with. We had a good time.
And how do you go about picking those people? Did you know them prior, or was that your first time meeting them, or?
So I had a connection to Scott Jacoby, who runs eOriginal Media. So I had a personal connection to him through my cousin. And when I wanted to hire a local crew, his name came up, and I had a Zoom meeting with him just to chat and see if we were compatible. And we clicked right away. So I basically said, I know that you do this and you do this locally for a living. So who's our crew? And he assembled people that he was used to working with. And then Connor ended up being my main producer. He and I produced it together, and with tons of help from Scott. And we just filled in all the blanks. Like, we didn't have a sound guy. We didn't have this or that. So we, filled in the blanks the best we could. But most of the people were local that we worked with. It was cool.
Yeah, I saw that. That's neat. The talent that's in this area is off the charts.
I agree.
Whether it's filmmaking, and I wish I would have watched this before we did this, and I can't wait to go see it. But I mean, even musicians here, just like I always say, I would put the talent in this area up against any other city in the country. It's
Yeah.
crazy what comes out of here.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And speaking of musicians, man, did I run the gamut trying to find, not trying to find, but wanting to find the perfect composer for this, because the music in it is mostly all original composition. We did end up using a couple tracks that we licensed, but most of it was original compositions by Brianna Tam. And she's a cellist and a pianist and a composer, and she was unbelievable to work with. So fun.
It's so amazing what music does to film.
Oh yeah. I mean, when I heard her music to the rough cut for the first time, it's like my brain exploded. The music in the film, it was really important to me that it was a character in and of itself. I said, there is so much emotional subtext to these scenes. There's so much unsaid between the characters. I want the music communicating that emotional subtext. So she nailed it. I think I don't have a musical vocabulary, but we both spoke the same emotional vocabulary. So it was like, she'd send me something. I'd be like, okay, it's a little anxious and I want it to be tense. And she'd go, okay, I understand. And she'd, tweak it and send it back. And it was so much fun putting music to this film. It means so much to each of the scenes.
It's yeah. I like that you call it a character, because that's an interesting way to say it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Music is a powerful, powerful thing.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, the house is by all means a character in the film. In the music, I think it's just such an emotional presence all throughout the whole film.
I love that you said that, because I never would have thought about that till just now. Like these things being characters, because they are.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
That's interesting. Yeah.
See, that's why you didn't watch it first, because now you can watch it with that in mind.
Yeah. I'll be like, I'll be taking notes. Be like, yo, can we do another podcast?
Let's do it. We'll make it bonus content, like a commentary.
Yeah. No, I'm really mad at myself that I didn't watch it. But yeah, that's you wouldn't think that. Like the normal person watching a movie would never think that, like, oh, someone picked this house for a specific reason.
Mm-hmm.
You just watch the movie because it's a movie, and you just kind of,
Yeah, that's what's cool about film, though, is, I think the best productions are the ones that don't call that kind of stuff, that don't call the attention to those sorts of decisions, but you can feel it in the overall vibe of the film. Like every film has its own frequency, and when all of the pieces harmonize, it's just a great experience. But when you have all these things harmonizing, then all of a sudden you have this location that it's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't feel right. It's almost like you're not getting it on a conscious level, but you feel it in the overall product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool. From a consumer, what kind of films do you like to watch? What are you into?
Man, depends on the day. My favorite film of all time is Mulholland Drive by David Lynch. Always has been since I saw it over 20 years ago. It has mesmerized me. And what I love so much about Mulholland Drive is that it is a living, breathing film. Every time you watch it, it is different, because you're different every time you watch it, and it's interacting with you. I remember watching an interview with David Lynch, and they were like, what is this film about? We're all so confused. And he's like, it's not about what it's about. It's about how it makes you feel. That impacted me so deeply. And especially now making films, some moments, it's not about the plot. How does that moment make you feel? Oh, so beautiful. One of my other favorite films is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Never get sick of seeing that. So good. Then, I love black and white films, a lot of them. Love All About Eve. Love Double Indemnity. So good. Touch of Evil. So good. So many great films out there.
I was afraid to ask that question because I was worried that what happened would happen, that you would list a bunch of stuff I've never seen.
That you've never seen. You know what I just rewatched that I would really bet that you have seen? I just recently rewatched American Beauty. I'm
Okay. It's
assuming
been a
you've seen
while. Yes, I have seen it. It's been a while.
Let me say this. It is better now than it ever was. And
Yeah.
maybe I'm just appreciating it more now, but man, did that stand the test of time? So good.
Well, I think what is an amazing thing about art, and whether it's a film, whether it's about music, and you said it before, it's like you can watch or listen to something at a certain point of your life and
Mm-hmm.
feel a completely different way about it. Or
100%.
or like, even I'm trying to think of some specific examples, but like you may have watched them when you were 21 and like whatever
Mm-hmm.
happened went right over your head. And then you watch it when you're 35 when you have more life experience, you're like, oh wow, like I didn't even realize that they were going through this or whatever it might be. And like even music,
Totally.
like I remember one of my favorite artists and like his name is Pete Yorn. And I was dating a girl and we were kind of on the outs. And there's a song and it's a great song. And the lyrics are um well, I always thought they were fall in love with me, I'll show you things you've never seen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the lyrics were this is oh, shit, I should know this too. Um is something wrong with me or I gotta look it up now. But what I'm getting at is I needed it to be what I thought it was at the time.
Yeah, I
You know
get
what I'm
it.
saying? Like,
Yeah.
and it's what art in general, like it's just an amazing thing.
That's the beautiful thing about art in any form. It's a reflection of you. And anytime you interact with it, it's a reflection of you then, not you before, not
Right.
you later. It's you now. And that's one of the coolest things. Like there's some music that I listened to when I was a teenager that I was like, oh my God, it's so emotional and it makes me feel and it gives me a permission to have all these feelings and I love it. And then I go back and I listen now and I'm like, whoa, this is deep stuff. This is really deep stuff. And I was maybe scratching the surface of that emotionality, but listening to it now and having experienced maybe more depths of those emotions, it gets me even more now than it did back then. Fiona Apple's a great example of that. Like her lyrics are just they slay me every single time. They're unbelievable. Like Alanis Morissette, just went
Yeah.
to go see her at Bethel Wood. She is a goddess. And
Yeah.
like her music back then, it was like, oh, I can be angry. Oh,
Yeah.
what a revelation. I am allowed to be angry. And seeing her now, it's almost like you slip right back into that vibe where it's like feeling anger for the first time. It's just amazing. It's a how do you time travel? Art. That's how
Yeah.
you time travel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can't find the song. I don't know what the name of the song was, but we get the idea.
I do. It took
Yeah.
me somewhere.
Yeah. It's funny how it's life is such an amazing thing. If you realize it, right? Like just the
Yeah.
experiences and it's that old saying, and I'm probably gonna screw this up too, but I wish I knew now what I knew then, or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
all these
Yes.
things that like, stuff that like you worried about as a teenager in high school. Like now it's like, why did I even pay attention to that?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what you're talking about is the examined life. And I think it's Plato that called it that. It might have been Socrates. I don't remember one of the two, but that's what they called it, the examined life. And to me, that's what I live for. When I interact with people that lead an unexamined life, it just seems so sedate to me. Like if you're just doing all this and you're not examining anything, you're not deepening your understanding, you're not questioning things, you're not curious about who you are and why you do what you do, man, that just feels like such a sedated existence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people go through that. I mean, life is short. That's an old saying too, right? But it's like it's so true. I mean, we're only here for, one time and we're not here for a long time. And, people, they'll save for retirement and they'll do all these things. And and you don't know how long you have,
No, no,
and
you
it's,
don't. There's so many people I know that retired and died within a year,
yeah.
or retired and found out they had a terminal illness.
Hmm.
It's like, man, I get saving. I get it.
Yes, you have to,
But
but
I get it. But don't let your life hinge on it, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's unfortunate. It really
Yeah.
is. And I find myself, not always living in the moment. Um, I think that's human nature too, to a
It's
degree.
hard. It's
Yeah.
really hard to stay present.
My wife, I think she's a better salesperson than I am. Remember her saying, what do you think about Disney next year? This was like last year for this year. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, the pool liner needs to be fixed. We could open it this year and it could be torn. And, our deck needs to be, redone. We should probably save the money for that. And
Hmm.
she's like, but like our son who's 6, if we wait 4 more years, like the experience for him might be completely different. He might not
Hmm.
be into it as much as he would be now. And like
Hmm.
my daughter was almost 2 at the time when we went this year. And people will say, oh, why are you going to do that? Like they won't even remember it. But it's like, it's not always for them. It could be for you too.
Yeah, and maybe
Seeing
they
their,
won't consciously remember it, but they
right.
have it plays into the timeline and the frequency of their life.
Yeah.
So it's never wasted.
Yeah. When we went the first time, I think my son was 4. I think he was 4.5. And people thought that was too young. I'm like, he remembered so much of that trip.
Yeah.
He talks
I mean,
about it
I
to this
remember
day.
being there when I was super young.
Yeah.
Ninja Turtles, they were 10 times bigger than me. It was the coolest thing ever.
Did you have the pleasure of seeing the Ninja Turtles come to the Kingston Armory?
No, when did that
Uh,
happen?
well, I was elementary school probably. Um, I forget what year it was, but they full like turtle costumes. They actually like performed live, like turtle power.
Yeah.
Yeah,
God,
that was amazing.
man.
I,
Sorry, I
I
missed that.
yeah, I wish I
Would have
could
been the
go see it
best day
again.
ever.
Yeah, I wish I could see it again, but I don't know. What's next for you? I mean, what's I know we talked about you're looking that you're working on that film or financing and
Yeah, I
is
got
that your
one project in financing and one script that I'm percolating. It hasn't come to fruition yet. It's interesting making a story from scratch. At least for me as a writer, I need to live at least something of the theme that I'm writing about, not necessarily be the character or have their journey. I'm not writing autobiographies here, but there's something about their lived experience and what they're going through that I need to experience it to some degree. And I feel like there's a major part of me that's still growing enough to write that story. So right now I'm just percolating and hoping that financing comes through sooner or later, because I really want to hop on that.
that's an interesting thing too. I always ask musicians like when they write songs, are
Hmm.
you writing songs about stuff that you've experienced? I always think about if I wrote a song, which I'll never do 'cause I don't know how. I'd probably have to like write about something I've experienced or that I'm feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's why so much of what they're churning out now feels empty and vapid, is because it's just formulaic writing where it's like, this happens and then that happens and then that happens. That's not how life works. It's this happens because that happened, which caused this to happen. It's like everything's cause and effect,
Mhm.
but all the formulaic stuff is just and then and then and then, and it's so boring and it's so shallow. So to me, the theme and what the characters are going through, if I don't have that, my story is not ready to be written.
Yeah. What do you think about the industry right now? In this current state. I mean, I see a lot of people like Vince Vaughn, for instance. I think I just saw something on Instagram with him that he was saying how like they'll never make, another R-rated comedy like the Superbad and the maybe the 40-Year-Old Virgin and things like that because people are afraid.
That's the word. That's the word.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do I think of the industry right now? I think it's full of fear.
Mm.
That's what I think. I think everybody's afraid to take a risk. I think everybody's afraid to tell a new story, to tap a new writer, to test a new director, to write a story that doesn't follow the formula.
Yeah.
Which is so silly because they're making these huge films with for so much money, and you could be making 100 little films that have meaning and weight and timelessness. I don't know. They're just so full of fear. They'd rather make, Fast and Furious 37 than try something new. It's sad, but it's true. So I'm hoping that some new producers are going to break that mold. Like the ones I'm working with, they're absolutely breaking that mold.
That's awesome. And there's so many remakes too.
So many remakes.
Yeah.
And like, don't mess with perfection.
Right.
Why? There's some movies that they remake and I'm like, why? It's perfect. Because it's in black and white or because it was made 30 years ago. Watch it. It's like it stands the test of time. It's perfect.
What do you think about AI in this industry?
There's so many times that I use talk text and Siri cannot properly transpose what I'm saying to her. And she says something so stupid that doesn't make any sense. And my response to that is, I'm not worried about AI.
Okay.
She can't figure out what the hell I'm saying half the time when I'm enunciating ridiculously into the phone. I'm not worried.
Yeah.
The audiences are not dumb. Audiences are not vapid. Audiences are curious and deep and smart, and they want to be stimulated and challenged and tested and entertained while we're at it. But Hollywood right now has it backwards. They're doing the entertainment thing, right? And they're like, how can we make this as big and sensationalized and crazy as possible? And it's all too much. There's no character development. There's no beauty. There's no small lingering moments. And I'm not saying no directors are doing this, obviously. But I'm talking about the big stuff that's getting churned out. Yeah. It's vapid.
I couldn't tell you the last good movie I saw.
Yeah. And that says a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah.
I know Hollywood was like, I think all the actors were like really worried about AI and.
Now I can see why actors are worried about AI.
Okay, maybe that's a better question.
Yeah, I can see why actors are worried about it. It's kind of messed up with that, and I don't know enough about it to really talk deeply. But for a computer to be able to recreate your image and you're not getting paid for it.
Yeah.
What? Come on.
Yeah.
That's stupid. It's so stupid. Like, stop, everybody. Stop. This is insane. Making a film is the most collaborative thing I've ever done. There are so many hearts and souls and blood, sweat, and tears that go into making a film. Just share the pie. Share the pie. There's enough pie for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, just everybody relax. Everything's so about the bottom line. Can't be about that.
That's the thing. And I think with the advancements in technology, even like sports, there's so much analytics. Like, we have to do this because this is what the analytics say. Mm-hmm. No one goes like they don't work with the gut anymore.
No, which is such a mistake.
Yeah.
Your intuition is everything.
Yeah.
Everything, especially in the creative world.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to be willing to take risks because film is an art form. And I get the big tentpole films that are fun and that are entertaining for entertainment's sake. I get that, right? We've always had the My Fair Ladies and the big musical production, and they've been here the whole time. So I get that. But it's like, it's an art form. That would be like putting paint by numbers in MoMA and being like, look at this amazing work of art. No. And that's what we think we can do with film. We're like, this is exactly how it should be. And put this here and this here. And that's exactly how the plot should go. And make sure the character doesn't do this. Make sure they save a cat on page 8. Like, please, everyone. Like, humans are so much more complex than that. That needs to be honored. It's just, the bubble's going to burst.
Right.
The short and long of it.
Well, I think, are we overly sensitive as a society, or are the overly sensitive people a minority who just speak the loudest? Because I think that's what kids, Hollywood and things like that, like, was living in fear. It's like, oh, we're gonna get, like, even, what was it, The Little Mermaid? They recasted her as a black woman.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's up in arms. I can't believe,
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean,
Everybody needs to relax.
right, but like,
Everybody needs to relax. Like they did the all-female Ghostbusters.
Right.
People are freaking. Oh my God, this is what you're worried about?
Right.
Stop.
But those people are the ones like speaking the loudest. They're
Well, are we gonna? Is sensitive the right word though
I
for
don't know.
them?
What's
I think I like to call them pre-offended. I think there are pre-offended people
Right.
that they just generally have a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah.
Right. And they walk around looking at something to fire off at.
Mhm.
They have all their opinions and it's like, oh, I'll fire off at this and fire off at that. I think sensitivity, the way I think about it, is different, right? It's like the difference between someone having a diversity initiative where they're like, you need to have a different race, every race represented in this friend group. Okay, great. Does this story take place in a city or a town where that reflects reality? I don't know. Does it? Is it serving a purpose, or are we just ticking boxes? Are we writing, blank characters that we're just, okay, this one can be the girl, this one can be the boy, this one can be the transgendered person, this one could be the queer person, and then just throwing them on screen? Because that's not representation. That's diversity, but it's not representation. That's why I think it's so important to hire a writer and a director and a producer that are of the part of culture that you're trying to represent on screen. Because these are stories being told.
Mhm.
You can't just paint by numbers with these things. It's ridiculous. It's diversity, but it's not representation.
I love that you said that, because like that's all you see now and you can watch it and be like, okay, that's this person's here for this reason and this person for that reason. It's everywhere all the time.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do it, make it real.
Yeah.
Make it real.
Yep.
Hire a room full of writers that are diverse and inject reality into these characters. I'm all about representation. Oh my God, the more people represented, the better. I had a conversation with someone today because I was called Mrs. And I was like, I really prefer mix, which is the MX, which is the non-binary honorific.
Okay.
And it's like, I do karate, I do martial arts, so there's a lot of ma'ams and sirs being thrown around. And, I'm kind of just as comfortable with sir as I would be with ma'am. But for some reason, Mrs., I was like, I can't with that. So like, let's have a little conversation. And the conversation went so well because my audience was open to it and they want to be inclusive. And to me, it was like, well, let's use this term. Let's actually start using it, because even if it causes confusion or questions, I'll field those questions happily. Because it's like, let's get people used to that term. I'm non-binary and I didn't even know of that term. Right. Never heard of it until I stayed at a hotel in California and they were like, what's your honorific pronoun? And I'm like, what's that? And it's just all about, you can call that hypersensitivity, but I call it inclusion, and people making more room. Let's circle back to the beginning of our conversation. You're just making more room for people.
Right.
Hey, if somebody walked around calling me Jessica, I would correct them because that's not my name.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. If someone walked around calling me Bob, I'd correct them because that's not my name. So it's like, what's the big deal? Let's all just relax. Let's all ask more questions. Let's all be more curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Karate and martial arts? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a practitioner of Tang Sudo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's neat. Talk about
it's so
that.
fun. I love it so much.
Let's talk about who Jennifer is outside of filmmaking.
Yeah, I love martial arts. I took Tang Sudo for maybe 2 years when I was in high school, and I loved it. But then, extracurriculars, college, life, so I stopped. And here I am 20 years later. A dojang opened up like 5 minutes from my house. And I didn't care what martial arts they were teaching. I was like, I'm going. I'm going. So when I called, when's the adult class? I signed up. Oh, by the way, what are you teaching? Hang Sudo. Couldn't believe it. Almost fell off my chair. So I've been back into it for 18 months now. And oh my God, I just love it so much.
What is that exactly? I mean, I'm not of that world.
How to differentiate it? It's, a lot of predetermined forms, and, there's curriculum where you're learning self-defense and, hand techniques and foot techniques, and each belt you move up to has more that you learn until you gradually get to black belt. So right now, actually next week, I'll be testing for my red belt, which is 3 steps before black belt.
And are you gonna go for the black?
Hell yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, of course. And it actually doesn't even stop there. You can keep ascending through the ranks and get your master belt at 4, like a 4th degree black belt. So yeah, I intend to do it as long as I can jump and kick.
I I wish I would have done something like that when I was younger. I remember Cobra Kai came out, I think during the
Hmm.
pandemic. Well, it was on like YouTube Red, I think it was like years and years ago. It got picked up by Netflix and kind of took off. But I was like, oh man, like I want to go do karate.
Why don't you start? It's never
I
too
know.
late.
Well, at that point it was during COVID, so I was like, I don't think there was like
You
much going on.
come to this side, do martial arts. It's so fun. And it's, oh my God, it gets you into such great shape.
Well, listen, I just started going back to the gym for the first time
Good.
in 11 years.
Do
So,
you love going to the gym?
so I'm in week 2. I
Okay.
don't, well, so last week was absolutely brutal. Like
I
I
bet.
I couldn't sit on the toilet without like, going down like just in extreme
Groaning.
pain, like walking down steps. Like I was
Oh
like
yeah.
walking around like I like threw my back out. Like it was just
Yeah.
bad. I was just like, this week was better. Um, but I just got to a point where I'm like, I'm 41 years old and I want to be around for my kids. And yeah, if I don't do something, I'm gonna keep going down the wrong
Telling you, martial
road.
arts is great because baked into it is self-discipline,
Mhm.
and baked into it is achievement, right? So to me, I could never sustain going to the gym. I would always be like, okay, I'm doing it this time. And then, 2 months into it, I'd fizzle out. But
Yeah,
this, like, I don't know, it just keeps you baked into it. I love it. I think it's awesome. And it gets you into better shape than going to the gym ever got me in.
yeah. I'm trying to get my son to do karate. He's not.
You should
He's
do it
not.
with him. That's actually a big thing at
Is it?
my dojang. Yeah,
Where's that at?
it's in Daleville.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know where you're located, but there's like 3 different mom and child or dad and child duets that go to the school.
That's interesting because he
And like
kept
the
saying
parents
like,
just started. Actually, a lot of the parents started after the kids, so the kids are higher ranked than them. It's great. I mean, it's so cool.
I'm in the Pittston area.
Oh yeah. I mean, so that would only be what, 30 minutes from you.
30
That's
minutes.
not too bad.
All right.
Yeah, and they have 3 locations. I'm gonna send you some information.
I because he said he'll do it if I do it, and I was like, oh, okay. That mean I'm I think down for that, but I didn't know that was like an option.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's definitely an option. I'll send you some information because there's Tank Pseudo studios everywhere, and it's so great.
That sounds awesome.
It's so fun. And it would be
Yeah.
great to bond with you and your kid to like do
Yeah.
an activity together and kind of go through the ranks together. That would be so cool for you.
Well, I wanted him to do it for a couple of reasons. The discipline, right? And
Hmm.
just to be able to defend himself. Kids are so mean. Luckily he's in first grade, so he hasn't had an altercation by any means at this age. But
Hmm.
I mean, kids are mean. And I just want to, like, I'm not going to be there.
It's good to feel, if anything, it's good to feel confident in your ability to stand alone.
Yeah.
100%. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say enough good things about it.
I will
if
look
that's
for that.
Not already apparent.
I will look for that information.
Yeah, I will send it.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anything else you want to talk about that is Jennifer Cooney?
Honestly, I think this has been a lovely and complete conversation. I'm so happy with everything that you have asked me, and it was great to be able to talk about Wildfire and making it and what I got going on and karate. I'm just grateful for the conversation. Thanks for having me.
I was very nervous. I'm
Why?
I'm out of my element. To a degree, right? Like, I don't know a lot about film. You know, speaking to someone who has, like, I don't say higher level of thinking, but kind of like just this openness about them. It put me a little nervous.
Well, you'd never know. You did wonderful.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, this is a great conversation.
Good. I'm glad. I'm thrilled to have been able to talk to you. And again, have these conversations just about, you know, honesty and life. Because, I mean, like I said before, we only get one of them, and we're not here for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. And the examined life, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about, is digging a little bit deeper than the average bear. So I'm down to chat whenever you want.
That's awesome. Well, I can't wait to watch Wildfire. 2 words, Wildfire. Available wherever.
Yeah, and the easiest way to find all those different locations is to go to the film's website, which is thewildfiremovie.com. And there's a little watch now button, and that gives a listing of everywhere that you can watch it.
I'm truly surprised that we have not crossed paths sooner. You know, you're from this area, right? And you've worked with a lot of people that I'm associated with. But I'm glad we were able to connect.
Me too. It's been great.
It is September 5th. Just for a time reference, this might not come out until the week of the 16th, but I don't think we talked about anything timely, but I like to just kind of give a reference. A reference point in this space-time continuum. Yeah, people are like, oh, you know, so much has happened between now and then. I'm releasing one. Right, exactly. Yeah, I'm releasing one next week. It's for an event that's happening that week, and when we were talking, it was 2 weeks prior. So he's like, "Oh yeah, in 2 weeks and blah blah." So I'm like, "Whoa." Slow your roll. Yeah, thewildfiremovie.com. That's right. Yep, and there's some behind the scenes stuff there. There's some good stuff, and if you sign up for our newsletter, you get access to our exclusive deleted scenes. Very cool. So sign up for the newsletter. I mean, from what I saw like there's a clip on the website. It just looks really well done too. Like, it's not like this, you know, it doesn't look like, you know, a rookie. Yeah, not saying you independent film. Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, this looks incredible. Yeah, it's. Thank you. I can't wait to watch it. Yeah, I'm really proud of it. Thank you. I'm excited for you to see it. Yeah. When I watch it, you share your notes with me about karate and martial arts. I'll share my notes with you about how awesome I thought the film was. I would love to hear your reflections after the fact. That would be great. I don't want to get back into stuff. It just the whole concept is just it goes back to what we said. Like, people are not fake; they're just they're afraid. They're afraid, and everyone's going through this. That's right. Yeah, we're shifting into a new paradigm of relationship where it's about room and tolerance and love and forgiveness, as opposed to perfection and completing each other and all that nonsense that we've been taught. Yeah. Yeah. That's the problem. That's what we're taught. That's what we're taught. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So here is the next generation of filmmakers. Nice. To show new templates. Well, I look forward to hearing more from you, or seeing more from you, and hope you get that financing and keep in touch. Yeah, put good juju out into the universe. We'll take it. Jennifer, it was a pleasure. Likewise. Thank you so much.